everyone, welcome back to Simming History, where we look at the history of architecture through the lens of The Sims. Today is the third in a mini-series about traditional Japanese architecture. Last week we looked at the country version of the minka, or folk house. This week we're looking at the city version of the minka, or machiya, the townhouse. So first off, if you have not seen last week's episode, make sure you go back and see it, because we're going to see a lot of repeat things showing up in the machiya. So the structure of the machiya is pretty much the same as the structure of the country minkas. The foundation is traditionally Soseki, stones set in the ground, on which stand freely wood columns. The structure is wood timber frame with earthen walls. The roofs would traditionally have been thatched in the same manner as the country minka, but as time has gone on, tile has taken over in the city, and for what is probably a very obvious reason: risk of fire. Tile is not combustive. Now, the layout of the machiya is very unique. It has a very narrow front compared to its extremely deep site. In fact, they're nicknamed eel beds for that narrow, deep shape. At the very front, you would have the Mise Niwa, or Genkan. It's the entryway. It's where guests and customers would have been greeted. It would have packed earth or stone floors. It's where shoes would be removed before entering the rest of the house. Next to the Mise Niwa is the Mise Noma. It's the front shop. Now, the lattice on the outside windows and above the door, as well as that slit curtain above the door, would actually have informed the passerby of what kind of shop was contained in that building. Now, just behind the Genkan, or Mise Niwa, would have been the Tori Niwa. The Tori Niwa replaces the country minka's doma. It's, once again, earth or stone floored. You would leave your shoes on in this space, just like out in the country folk houses. This would have housed the traditional oven and rice cooker. The Tori Niwa also is double-heighted. It has windows up above to let in light, but is the only space that actually matches its original use. So just like the doma, it's open to the structure above, and it's meant to act as a chimney. Next to the Tori Niwa is the Tokonoma, or Daidokoro, which replaces the haroma, the raised wood plank space, with the Irori. Now, around the Irori is where the family would gather for dinner every night. This room acts as the space between the public shop and the private second floor. So it's where you would have found first a ladder, and then later on stairs. Specifically, something called box stairs. These are extremely steep stairs comprised of storage boxes and cabinets. Because this is a compact house, storage is at a premium, and they are certainly not going to waste the space under the stairs by not adding storage. Now, next to the Tokonoma would have been the Zashiki, or Tatami room. Just like out with the country minka, this would have hosted formal events and important guests. The Tatami room would also have housed the Tokonoma, which had two alcoves, one with staggered shelves and frequently a low cabinet below it, and the second one with a platform, a painted scroll on the wall, and on the platform an Ikebana. And the scroll and Ikebana would be changed out seasonally by the matron of the house. Now, the alcove with the scroll and Ikebana would have been the closest to the Engawa. The Engawa is the wooden veranda that sits between the Zashiki and the Niwa. The Niwa is the garden. Every single machiya had some kind of Niwa. It provides natural light and fresh air to the home, but also provides a natural green space the family could retreat to. old Japanese towns were not very green. They packed the buildings in as much as they could, and so these were really the only green, restful places the family could go unless you actually left the town. In the very back, you would have found the Kura, or the warehouse. This is where the family's valuables would have been kept, or possibly trading goods. It would have been the most well-built portion of the house, kept in the back and well-built as a means of protecting it from theft. The second floor would have housed a series of bedrooms. These rooms would have been tatami floored. They would have had cabinets along the walls for the storing of futon. And they would have had sometimes a series of double windows or doors leading to the outside, or just windows that were then covered with screens. The double doors or windows that we've seen throughout the house serve the purpose of providing potential air pockets for inclement weather, so to help keep the house warm in winter. The bamboo shades you see out in the front of the machiya help keep the house cool in summer. It allows for the windows to be open. The shades allow air to move through them, but they provide a semblance of privacy. So what's happening to historic machiya? Well, unfortunately, they're disappearing rather quickly. For several reasons. They are not up to modern earthquake code, and it's kind of cost prohibitive to bring them up to earthquake code for most people. Also, the younger generation doesn't really want the burden of taking care of a historic building, and instead prefer the nice, shiny, new, modern high-rise. But if you had somebody like me who wanted to come live in a historic structure that's been updated, what would it look like? Well, the Genkan would still be there. Instead of a packed earth floor, it's probably been updated to have a stone floor. But you'd still remove your shoes there, and you'd still have to step up into the rest of the house. The Tori Niwa typically is floored in, and even frequently brought up to the level of the rest of the house, but it still houses the kitchen. Doesn't have that traditional stove or rice cooker anymore, instead having modern counters and appliances. The front shop space is usually repurposed to a new use, a study, and second bedroom, or a TV room. Now the Tokonoma will no longer have the Irori. People really don't use the Irori anymore, except for out in the country. Instead, you're more likely to see something called a kotatsu, which is a table with an electric heater on its underside, and then skirted in a heavy comforter, and it's meant to help people stay warm during the winter. You would still have the Zashiki, however. Most modern Japanese homes still retain at least one formal tatami room. And you would also have a modernized toilet and bathroom. They would have replaced the original squat toilet with a modernized toilet with bidet, and you would have had a bathroom, which would be a new feature entirely. Originally, these buildings would not have had a bathroom. You would have had to go to the public baths to bathe daily. But most homes these days, if not all, have their own bathing facilities. And they are frequently prefab units. Upstairs, you would still have bedrooms. More often than not, the tatami would be removed and replaced with wood floors. It's sort of occupant dependent. About 60% of Japanese are favoring Western-style beds, and beds aren't really made to be on tatami. However, 40% of Japanese still sleep on futons on tatami. So, if you sleep on a futon, you'd keep the tatami. If you sleep in a bed, you'd replace the tatami. Thanks for joining me this week for the third episode in this mini-series. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any questions. You can find me on Instagram where I post teasers for videos when I remember to do so, and at the Sims 4 gallery where will be a playable version of this build. I'll see you next week for the fourth and final part of this mini-series. Until then, bye!